Welcome to the Jonathan Van Bilsen Show, featuring lively, in-depth conversation with compelling guests from our community. And here is our host, Jonathan Van Bilsen.
Hello and welcome to the show. My guest today is the Honourable Todd McCarthy. He is the Member of Provincial Parliament for Durham Region, the Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement, as well as the alternate Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks. We'll be right back after these messages with the story behind the person.
Top care with top stylists. Book your next hair appointment with Port Perry's award-winning hair salon, Rosario Greco Styles. The hair experience you deserve. Book today. Call 905-985-0099.
Not all Canadians have the time nor desire to manage their finances, and often that responsibility is up to financial professionals. Our goal is to help Canadian families achieve a happy and successful financial future. Visit us, the McClellan Financial Group of Asante Capital Management.
Welcome back. As I mentioned, my guest today is the Honourable Todd McCarthy. Minister, welcome to the show.
Glad to be back, Jonathan.
I did want to mention, you may have noticed that we've got a brand new set from the last time we recorded, because we're going into season 6, and not only a new set, but in a brand new studio.
It looks fantastic.
It's great.
Love
It's awesome. Doesn't make us look any better, but it looks... So, I wanted to start out, first of all, congratulations on your portfolio. You're a Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement, and you're the alternate Minister for the Environment, Conservation and Parks.
That's correct.
That is a mouthful. That must be a long business card. So, you recently took over the environment is temporary. You're filling in for a temporary position.
I am the acting or alternate Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks. That's my colleague and friend, MPP Andrea Kanjan, Minister Andrea Kanjan, she and her husband have just welcomed their second child.
Oh, wonderful.
Just before Labor Day, so she's on parental leave maternity leave, and her husband is on paternity leave. So the two are at home with young 3-year-old Oliver, who's in preschool, and beautiful baby Anastasia. She's a beautiful child.
That's great. That's great. So we are in approximately 800 and some odd days since you've taken this job on.
Well, you're talking about June 2nd, 2022.
Well, I was actually thinking of August. I think August the 8th when you actually started. June 2nd, I think, is
my election day as MPP for Durham. That's right. So that's 2.5 years ago.
927 days.
Right. And then I was appointed as Associate Minister of Transportation on September 4th, 2023.
Okay.
2.5 weeks later, the Premier called upon me to move to the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery. Right. Then I had procurement, and that was on September 22nd, 2023. I had procurement, Supply Ontario added June 6, 2023. Right. And while maintaining that portfolio, I have been asked to serve as acting Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks just before Labor Day.
Nothing like coming out of the gate running.
Yeah, that's right.
When we first talked, when we first did this show, you were brand new.
That's true.
And in fact, I think it was a time when even the Speaker of the House wasn't sure what riding you were from. That's how new you were, right?
That's right.
But you've certainly taken Parliament by storm, without question. Congratulations on that. It's
honored to have the trust and confidence of the residents and citizens of Durham, and proud of the fact that is my first and most important job, is to be the advocate and spokesperson for all of our residents at Queen's Park.
Right. I was going to ask, being MPP is still the number one part of this whole gig.
Absolutely,
right?
Jonathan. That's right.
I want to take it back a bit. So you're born in Scarborough. I know we went to the same high school together.
We did.
I think we were 2 years apart, maybe 3.
We missed each other at Senator O'Connor College School, but yes,
just slightly.
That's our alma mater.
And your brother's a judge, correct?
My younger brother, John, who just turned 60, is a judge of the Superior Court of Justice. He's been a judge for the last 13 years.
And your other brother, I believe, is also into business, right?
Yes, Jerry has been since 2007, is on the Federal Dispute Resolution Tribunal. Right. It's called the Social Security Tribunal. Right.
And back in university, you took political science.
Yes, that was my undergraduate major. That was before law school.
Did you have sort of thoughts about one day getting into politics back then? Or was political science just something to...
Believe it or not, when I was in grade 8, 13 going on 14, I very much thought about becoming a lawyer and serving in public office. I did have that thought. And my mom and dad both encouraged me. My teachers encouraged me, and so that was the direction I wanted to go in from a young age.
And do you think, I mean, you were a senior partner with Flaherty McCarthy.
That's right. I joined Jim's firm 30 years ago.
And was that not, there was something I remember that you were up against him or something, and you weren't too successful, and instead he hired you?
Yes, I was called to the bar as a lawyer in 1989. By that point, Jim Flaherty was already a senior lawyer. He was about 14 years older than me.
Right.
And so he was a well-respected trial and appellate lawyer in Ontario. Right. And I, as a young lawyer, I happened to go up against him in the divisional court, the interim court of appeal, three-judge panel. And I had won at first instance, and the other side retained him for purposes of the appeal, and he was successful and I was not. But apparently I earned his respect as a worthy opponent, and about a year later he hired me at his law firm.
Great, never looked back.
Yeah.
You've done well over 100 non-jury trials, right?
Yep, before I was elected in 2022, over 33 years. And a lot of people say that just means you were difficult to get along with. And
I just assumed you started when you were 14.
Well, really what it was is I did develop a trial counsel and appellate practice. So sometimes when a case was on the eve of trial, I was asked to step in and be the trial counsel. Right. Kind of like being a pinch hitter.
Yeah.
Or a substitute quarterback.
Do you think that whole career has helped you in politics? Like being a lawyer, you learn how to speak, you learn how to address people and such. Do you think that's very beneficial in politics?
I think the lawyer skill set definitely helps. The fact that there's so much public speaking and debate associated with the role, it definitely helps. But, you know, Jonathan, the 124 members of our House come from all different backgrounds.
Right.
And so I think that's the great thing. It's rich and diverse because so many people from different occupations in different parts of the province come together to debate. But obviously, you know, Parliament, any Parliament, is styled like a court with the Speaker in the middle with the black gowns.
Yep.
And either side of the House, we have the government on the right of the Speaker and the opposition to the left. Right. So it is styled like a court. And so obviously my background as a courtroom lawyer definitely had me battle ready, so to speak. I hit the ground running. I
find it interesting. You know, your predecessor, Lindsay Park, was a lawyer. Aaron O'Toole was a lawyer. I just assumed there was more money in politics than there was in being a lawyer, so that's why you guys jumped.
It's definitely a pay cut, but it's the honor of a lifetime, Jonathan. It really is. It's my parents taught me from a young age about the importance of public service, community service. And so I just think of elected office, as I've said before, as another form of community service or public service. And
you started a long time ago, right? You were a school board trustee back in the 90s.
Well, yeah, I ran for student council in high school and university and won on those in those endeavors. But in terms of my adult life, yes, I was honored to be elected to the Durham Catholic District School Board in 1994. I only won by 3 votes and 2 on the recount. So
nobody remembers. Yeah, you know, who was the second person on the moon, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it was an honor to be there for 1 term, and then our kids were very young at that time, so I pulled back from running for further office. But then I was appointed a deputy judge a few years later, and I served as a deputy judge on the small claims court for about 9 years.
So I didn't realize, I guess it makes sense that there would be a judge on small claims court. I'm not really that familiar with the process, but it's under a certain dollar volume, right?
Yeah, that's right. The small claims court now has a maximum monetary limit of $35,000. When I was sitting as a part-time deputy judge, it was $25,000.
Okay.
But that is the people's court. You're dealing with the resolution of disputes for what is a significant amount of money for most people.
Absolutely. I remember it was, when I was young, it was like $5,000. That's my recollection. But that's where you would go if you can't afford a lawyer, and so you
we had a lot of individuals appearing for themselves in small claims court, and we also had some represented by lawyers. There were occasions, but mostly you were dealing with self-represented fellow citizens.
It must have been interesting. You must have heard some great wild cases.
It's the stuff of real life. You know, this is, and it was an honor to do it because a lot of times the amount involved just you couldn't afford to, or it wasn't proportional to the cost of having a lawyer to be able to pursue a dispute in small claims court. And that's where the role of the deputy judge is very important. You need to have a decision. And where the parties just can't resolve it, there has to be a decision, and there has to be reasons for that decision so that the parties understand the principles of law and how they apply to that particular case.
It gives you great insight too on the other side of the fence, right? Like as an attorney, you're prosecuting, you're defending, whatever the case. You're sort of viewing it from one side, but to see it from that side is totally
it's definitely a different role to be.
It's great education
from being an advocate to being the decision maker. That's right.
You also taught at Durham and at Queen's.
That's right. That's right. I was an adjunct professor at Durham College back in 2010 in the Faculty of Justice and Emergency Services, teaching evidence. It's really incredible to run into students who you taught and to see what they're up to today. Successful careers as paralegals. And then at Queen's Law School, when Megan and Brendan were there as undergraduates, I was very honored to be an adjunct professor at the Faculty of Law. And again,
Megan and Brendan, your kids?
Megan and Brendan are my two oldest ones. So they both
you have three altogether, right?
Yes, Megan, Brendan, and Jake.
Right.
So when Megan and Brendan were doing their undergraduate degrees at Queen's University, I was teaching part-time at the law school.
Okay. Now, I met you at one of the moderations for the election back in 22, I guess it was.
Well, we had the televised debate, and you were the moderator. That's right. When I was a candidate.
That's when we met.
Yes.
And you won that election by 10,000 votes.
That was a nice cushion. I felt that was a much more comfortable.
Certainly better than
win.
3 for the trustee.
3 with a recount when I ran for trustee. But that was certainly a great feeling of trust and confidence from the people of Durham. But of course, the election is only one day. You have to serve each and every day.
It's only the beginning.
And continue to earn the trust of the people in everything that you do on their behalf.
I think it was John Henry who said something to the effect that the election is as good as it gets. From there on, it's work.
That's true. That's true. It's real work, and it's a real honor, of course. But I always say, Jonathan, that in a campaign, you go out, you meet the members of your community, you go to their doors, you're at events, and if you're fortunate enough to earn their trust and get elected, you're elected on a platform. There's no question about that. Promises, pledges, but there's so many things that come up in the term of a government. You're also elected on the basis of a sacred trust. The people are trusting you to deal with those issues that none of us anticipate coming up during the course of a term. And then you're answerable when the time comes for re-election. So it's all about the will of the people and being accountable to the people.
We're going to take a quick break for commercial. When we come back, I did want to sort of get your view, because I know you've been acclaimed by the party, but the next election, whenever it might be, will you do things differently? I wanted to get into that.
Okay, we'll talk about that for sure.
You bet. So please stay with us. We'll be back right after these messages.
Pet Value has a fleet of services to help you and your pets to live their very best lives. Visit Pet Value in Port Perry to discover a world of expertise, friendly staff, and everything you need for your pets. Pet Value, your pet, your store.
Organizing an event, promoting your business, or just need to get noticed? At PP Print, our sale flags, lawn signs, and car branding will get you the attention you need. PP Print, more than just printing.
At Voss, your independent grocer, it's all about hometown living and shopping. Owned and operated by Terry and Christine Voss, their newly renovated Port Perry store carries many local items to support our town and its residents.
Welcome back. My guest today is the Honourable Todd McCarthy. Minister, welcome back. We had a great conversation about the election back in 22. You have been acclaimed. Congratulations on that.
Acclaimed for the nomination. For the nomination. To stand again as a candidate. That's right.
So when there is a next election, you will be running. So I wanted to ask, you've been through it once now, so it's a learning curve. Initially it was a learning curve, right? So what do you take away from that? What would you do different? Would you do anything different? I mean, it worked for you.
We'll start with my signs and my literature will now say re-elect, which will be a first, I think obviously once you have one term, in which you've served. Obviously, you go to your fellow citizens in your riding, and you first of all run in your record. What have you accomplished?
Right.
And they obviously have a picture of the trust they placed in you, and your track record is a report. And then of course, but you have to have a plan. Why are you running again? What's new, and what are we doing in the next term? But again, keep in mind, with parliamentary democracy, you run as a member of a team. You run with your leader. You run with the party that you have been nominated to represent, and you run as an individual. So those three ingredients go into the campaign that you're going to be launching.
They're very important ingredients too.
They are.
I've seen elections in the past where the person in the riding has been fantastic, but either the leader of the party, people in the party, there's political issues in that, and it does hurt. So it's you're right. It's definitely part of the team.
And then on that front, there's an old saying that often governments can be reelected, obviously, and I hope and believe that the government of the Honourable Doug Ford and our progressive conservative government will be reelected, and I'll be part of that. But many times governments are thrown out of office. We've certainly seen that. I mean, and I think if you look at the recent history provincially, I think that in 2018 there was very much a desire among the populace to vote out the Liberal government of Kathleen Wynne. When Premier Ford was re-elected and I was elected for the first time, that was very much about re-electing a government, reaffirming the trust and confidence in a government that had already served a first term. And that will be, of course, the ballot question going forward. And I think that we can proudly stand on our track record. I think we've done the right things. We've said what we were going to do. We've made the pledges, and then we've acted on those pledges. But we've also listened, and I think Premier Ford is a great example of that. And I like to follow his lead. If you stay in touch, as I do and he does, with our fellow citizens and residents, our constituents, you're listening, and you have to pivot, either because we didn't necessarily have a mandate on a particular issue, so we have to listen. And pivot, and even change course completely. Premier Ford has shown that kind of leadership, and that's very, very important. And we'll run on that track record that we will make the pledges, we will act on those pledges, but we will listen and change course or chart a new course where necessary in the public interest.
One of the comments I have heard about you several times is that you respond to people. You actually text people back and so forth, which is commendable, because I've dealt with many people in your arena, and it's like pulling teeth to get an answer, or you're scheduled down the list of contacts, and somebody will eventually respond. So
well, you're right, Jonathan. I mean, that is an example that I follow, because the Premier is very accessible. He calls back, he texts back, he emails back, and he's out there visiting people, seeing people, going to the doors. That's what I try to do as well, and it's much appreciated. It's very much appreciated, because there's some citizens rightly say, well, we only see the politicians during the election campaign, and then they disappear. We don't want to be that type of politician. I want to be in touch with with the people I represent regularly, and that's the only way to be a good representative and spokesperson for your riding.
You need to tell the people what's going on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
We'll flash your cell number and the Premier's cell number on the screen here, so they can call you quite often.
But I'll tell you something, it's very important, because not only do I need to hear what are the concerns of the people I represent during my term and going forward, but also many times when I talk to our residents and citizens, they say, well, I'm really glad you called, because I didn't understand that part of the policy. I didn't know that fact, or I read this, but they didn't mention that part. And so good communication is a key part of this job.
It's very, very difficult in this day and age. People get a lot of mail, a lot of junk mail, and when there's newsletters or flyers or whatever that's from a politician, they usually glance at the photos, see if they recognize anything, and then it gets tossed. To get the word out to people as to what's going on is very hard to do. In the old days, you do a newspaper column, everybody reads the newspaper, and that's what it was, I can't remember the last time I picked up a Globe and Mail sort of thing, to go through it in detail.
There's a lot of noise out there.
There's a lot
social
of noise.
Media.
Yeah, and to coin a phrase, false news. Fake news.
There is, or it's just misunderstood. Now, of course, it's our duty to get the message out properly.
Absolutely.
So when we are announcing investments in healthcare at Lake Ridge, building new schools, extending the GO train to Bowmanville, and the progress of that, because it's underway with the design phase well underway now. But it's our job to get the communication out there through newsletters, through social media, through a program like this, and just by talking to people, by being in the community, by talking on the phone or texting back or emailing back, whatever
being
way.
Accessible.
Being accessible.
Is
That's
exactly
the key.
it.
That's parliamentary democracy is alive and well if the representative makes herself or himself available and accessible, and if the people they represent are also reaching out. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we have to work together.
I mean, I always find that the people with the loudest negative voice are the ones who never vote. You know, it's
maybe.
Yeah. That's sort of, so let's segue into Bill 194, which is your baby.
That's my current bill now. This is the fourth bill that I've tabled in the House. I'm happy to say that Bill 142, the Better for Consumers, Better for Businesses Act, Consumer Protection for Digital Age, passed unanimously and received royal assent December 6, 2023. Now, moving into 2024, we had the Building Infrastructure Safely Act, which is one call before you dig, no matter what you're building.
That's Bill 153.
That's Bill 153, yep. And then Bill 200 came into effect in June. That was the bill that abolished notices of security interest.
Right, the Homeowners Protection, basically.
The Homeowner Protection Act, that we had real criminal activity going on, preying on seniors and vulnerable Ontarians with respect to these NOSIs, which are basically consumer liens for HVAC equipment and other services. And really tying up the equity in people's homes. So we abolished those very decisively. Again, that moved very swiftly through the House because it also received unanimous consent.
I was going to say it was unanimous, right?
Yep. So now stay tuned with Bill 194. Bill 194 is the Strengthening Cybersecurity and Building Trust in the Public Sector Act 2024. So it's about regulating artificial intelligence in the public sector and broader public sector, and as well cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a new type of warfare and terrorism.
And it's a very serious one.
And we're on guard 24/7 to protect hospitals, school boards, children's aid societies from attacks.
I mean, it's obviously necessary because I think it was Sick Children's Hospital that was attacked a year or two ago.
Yes.
They had a big infiltration in their cyber.
And the city of Hamilton as well. So,
and they're being held ransom, right?
It really is a type of terrorism and warfare, John, and we all have to be on guard against it. If you see something, say something. It's never a good thing when you suspect phishing or malware.
So AI plays a big role in this, right?
It sure does, because AI is even deployed to enhance cybersecurity attacks. But I was going to say to our fellow citizens and residents, always report something suspicious. It's never a good idea to delete it and say nothing. If you see something, say something. And report it to your AI officer or your cybersecurity IT person, whether you're in a large organization or a small organization, or report it to your family or report it to your neighbors. It's very much like neighborhood watch.
I mean, we could do a 10-hour show on AI. But I do remember recently there was a situation where the CEO of a company, they had done a fake version of him, and he had asked his CFO to transfer money to a different company. He was out of the country at the time, so this was a Zoom call.
That's a deep fake, Jonathan, and they're very dangerous, and especially when it comes to children. So with Bill 194, we're leading with the protection of children. That is the main focus of the bill, and that's why the first iteration focuses on school boards, children's aid societies, and hospitals.
But how do you prevent this? Like, what do you do? How do you stop this?
Well, the bill, for one thing, for the first time, centralizes reporting. So there'll be a requirement that the broader public sector agencies and all ministries of government report cyber incidents of any kind. So there's a central tracking. That's the essence of the bill. And as well, there'll be strong enforcement powers. The Information and Privacy Commissioner's Office has not really been updated in terms of its mandate and authority since the 90s. So the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act is is out of date and needs to be updated. That's one of the schedules to Bill 194 that we're updating.
And it needs to be an ongoing thing, because this, I mean, you know, there's software out there. I can clone your voice and I can make myself sound like you very easily, right? And that's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, this is real though, right, Jonathan, what we're doing right now. Yeah. This is not AI. This is not a deep fake, right?
No, absolutely, absolutely.
But I will tell you that the Act is designed to allow us to stay nimble. And I say that very clearly. Bill 194 will have not only the usual regulation-making authority within it, but also it has directive powers. So my ministry will be able to issue directives, because literally the technology around AI is developing weekly, hourly, and hourly even, and cyber attacks are becoming more and more sophisticated.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So to stay nimble, to stay up to date, the Act, if passed, will have that directive authority behind it, and that just allows us to move quickly to address cybersecurity issues and the continued deployment of AI. Now, AI has a very positive side to it.
Absolutely.
It absolutely does. It's a remarkable technology.
It is.
But it has to be
harnessed.
Here to stay. And it's here to stay, but it has to be harnessed for good, and we have to put up the safeguards that will impact children. So we need to be very vigilant on that front.
Our time is up. We've come to an end.
I'm honored again to be on the show. Jonathan, please, I'll be happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate and I appreciate what you're doing. You're setting Parliament on fire, and I like that. It's good. It's good to hear. And I also, on a personal note, wanted to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas. I can't believe it's here. We just finished the Santa Claus Parade, which was, as always, exciting.
That's always a pleasure to be in the Port Perry Parade, Jonathan, for sure.
It's great. Thank you very much for being a guest. And thank you all for watching. Please join us every month right here for the story behind the person.
Want to know what's happening in Skugog? News and lifestyle, changes in business, and all the entertainment information you'll ever need. Plus, each edition has a new photos and travel article. Look for your next copy in your mailbox.
Whether it's need to know information, local politics, charity fundraisers, or simply fun community events, we have you covered year-round. We are the Standard newspaper,